Pairing an energy storage system with a home solar system is more important than ever, but selling and designing a system that meets a customer's needs and fits their budget is not easy. Today on Power Forward, we learn how to start selling energy storage the right way with Aaron Bingham and Blake Akin from BayWa RE. Thanks for taking the time on another episode of Power Forward. We're recording this at the early part of May, but in March, we were all attending the NABCEP conference. And I want to start there because I had heard from several installers while I was there who mentioned, they had tried to start selling battery storage systems, maybe like 5 years ago, and it was a disaster for various reasons. And they're trying to maybe get back up to speed now. I'm just wondering what you've heard from your installer customers who had early struggles adding energy storage to their offering.
I think a lot of customers then, and still now, but especially then, had some extreme sticker shock when they learned of what the energy storage system adder would be for a typical PV installation.
A lot of it is the economics, the sticker shock. It was a big issue. And also a little bit about being educated on what energy storage was or is. In a lot of cases, especially 5 years ago, not seeing the need for it or not understanding the need for it. And so looking at it that way, they just, I want to say overlooked it or just didn't really dive into the economic piece of it as much as they are today.
Yeah, it could be a difficult sell. It also was, a lot more expensive for different companies to integrate energy storage sales into their sales dynamics, into their installation dynamics, right? The system has to be usually sold by one person. That's not always the same person as the person who designs the system. And with the way that energy storage is perceived on the market versus the way it was actually operating 5 years ago, there was likely to be somewhat of a disconnect there. Another challenge certainly was that at that time, a lot of these solutions were relatively new, and new solutions often have frequent firmware updates. There are often lots of challenges that come with deploying a new solution in the real world that inevitably will lead to some lessons being learned, right, about what the system is capable of and how that should be described and sold. Certainly saw some challenges on the service front too, and that was another element of the way in which adding energy storage to your business as a solution may have been perceived as something that's going to be increasing your costs. There's also, once the system is designed and ready to be installed, greater need for specialized labor on site during the installation of energy storage in some cases, depending on how the system is being designed and installed.
That plus installers and just the market in general kind of understanding what the systems should be designed for and the nuances of them, where it's now maybe better timing for installers to start thinking of expanding their offering. So that's why we're going to get into how to start doing this the right way, how to start selling energy storage the right way. So at that very beginning, from your guys' perspective, what are those absolute first steps to take or questions to ask before adding energy storage as a product offering?
I think what's really important is know the market and really know your customer and understanding what they're needing before offering anything. I think just rushing in and overwhelming the customer with all these battery options, it could be messy. It could be very difficult to sell. Paring it down, making it really easy for the customer. And the way to do that is to ask questions. Know your customer, know the market, and then you offer what the customer is needing from there.
Invest some time in some of the resources that energy storage manufacturers have developed on the training side of things as well. Not only do a lot of the solutions require folks to be certified before they do their installations, but it's a good idea to be certified before you're selling the product, and even before you decide to ask your sales team to offer the product. because there are things that you learn during the certification process about the way the system will operate, about the promises that can be made during the sales cycle, that are going to be really, really important bits of information for the sales team to be aware of as they're out there pitching it.
So then when promoting, hey, I have energy storage as a solution now, out in the market, what are some things to be mindful of when I'm doing that promotion, that marketing, and then in that initial lead qualification process that might help save steps later on or avoid misunderstandings when we finally get into the meat of like actually selling the system?
One of the things that we're still kind of learning more about out there is the importance of brand familiarity, especially for customers when they're buying energy storage. There are huge brands like Tesla that customers know very well, and that kind of set the standard around what customers expect with these systems in some ways. And there are new players out there that have really interesting, strong products. They're working hard to build their brand out. We're still learning what role brand familiarity plays, but I would expect that some element of brand familiarity does give folks that are actually in the home trying to make the sale somewhat of a leg up.
Different battery storage systems offer different things. So when we understand what the customer is wanting, in some cases it could be economic. In some cases it could be for preventing them or having storage when there's power outages, right? So understanding that, educating the customer on what these systems can provide, and then setting clear expectations on what they can do.
Are there any in particular that you wanted to note that have a specific feature or just feel like they're especially ready, or maybe some that just your customers are most excited about?
We've done a few really exciting launches over the last year or so. I'd say that the one that seems to have gotten the most traction has been Franklin WH. They've got a terrific product spec. Their product is sleek. It's extremely effective. Duracell also has a really interesting offer that we've seen some customers really latch onto. So that's been very cool. And that was kind of one of the brands that I was referring to earlier in the conversation when I mentioned that brand awareness can sometimes help sales. There are really, really exciting things happening with the Enphase and SolarEdge solutions. Both companies are looking at ways to kind of meet the challenge that's being posed by the NEM 3 guidelines. So they're looking at ways to minimize the installation costs of their system, maybe by not including smart switching equipment or focusing on allowing the battery to almost operate as a bit of a for lack of a better way of putting it, like a dumb battery, really, that's just providing grid services. It's there to, collect excess solar power during certain times of day and discharge that power to maximize payback on the NEM 3 schedule.
Enphase has they're a little bit more adaptable with system sizes than most batteries. So chatting with one of my installer friends, they're using Enphase battery for homes that are 4 to 6 kilowatt system sizes. So how it works is Enphase has a cabinet. It has a cabinet where you could put 3.3 kilowatt batteries into the cabinet. And if you're wanting to install a home that's from 4 to 6 kilowatt system, instead of getting a 10 kilowatt system right off the bat, they're finding ways to be more adaptable to where they could buy a cabinet and only buy 2 of the 3 batteries that need to go in that cabinet. So that's another way of cost savings.
I mean, you guys got into a lot of it right there, but I at the actual, during the sale itself, what are some of the key differences versus a solar only sale? I mean, we've gone, 20 years of really understanding how to promote the ROI, and, a lot of companies have their finely tuned processes of how to promote and show, here's, the system I'm selling you, here's how it's going to, save you money, etc. But storage is a different beast.
I think, Chris, one of the key differences that comes to mind for me is that when you're looking at the option of a with or without solar storage sale, speaking to the economics of the situation is potentially more challenging. But you really once the conversation is set in the right framework, you really can illustrate, I think, in an effective way by talking about the cost avoided for the customer, right, as the primary thing that you're targeting. PV sales folks are especially well positioned, though, to have these conversations about energy economics because it has been a part of the sale typically for most PV installations, right? So we're used to talking about the cost of the electron, the cost of the watt hour, and helping folks who own and operate sites understand what the economics of their energy bills are. But there certainly is a challenge in kind of changing the framework of that conversation.
One of the most common problems, I think, in energy storage sales is the dreaded whole home backup pitch. A lot of people say it. It's like an easy thing to promote out there, and people like that emotionally, but it's another thing to actually sell a battery system that's sized to do that and to do it right and to deliver on what the customer is actually thinking. So how can installers help ensure they're selling energy storage systems that really deliver on what they're selling when it comes to energy storage as backup?
Chris, I know I've been sounding like a like a broken wheel, but I think once we understand the why for the customer, you're now selling the system with intent. And what I mean by that is, okay, setting clear expectations of what this system is doing, we're going to do. You set clear expectations on the installation process, and there's additional products that you could also install with your energy storage system where you can monitor the production output of that energy storage system. So when you're speaking to the customer about what the system can do and what it can offer to your customer, you could also assure them that there are systems in place to monitor, to watch, to regulate what that system is doing for that peace of mind for the customer.
There's a lot of new developments in the area of energy management solutions, right? Things that allow you to control where your power is being directed in a more specific way under specific circumstances, really help crystallize some of the values of energy storage solution being on site, especially in cases where the site is using the energy storage solution for battery backup, being able to make sure that a certain set of breakers turn off in the event of a grid outage, and really helps make sure that the battery solution's able to last quite a bit longer and meet customer expectations or exceed customer expectations through smart energy management. It's really important to understand what these systems are actually capable of. Just like with energy storage, it does add a layer of complexity to the sales process. It can really, really improve the payback or the perceived payback, depending on what the sale is around, right? If there's an economic driver for the sale or an emotional driver for the sale. So making sure that your sales team is trained on those solutions in advance is incredibly important.
Because there's a lot more on the line for a solar installer based off of system performance versus solar only, because there's going to be more, depending on how that battery works and what was promised. You could have a lot more angry customers if you're not kind of prepared service-wise and have everything set up the right way. Should installers be prepared for the solar plus storage sales process to be longer? Are there more touch points that you've heard that they have to maybe add along the way to ensure a sale?
There are more touch points just by the very nature of the fact that you're installing more equipment, right? There's more aspects to the sale. The conversation has to be longer if you're doing a good job of making sure that the customer actually understands what the system is going to be capable of doing, because the system can do more things.
So as we wrap up here, are there questions or objections that you've commonly heard, or just any other advice for solar installers out there who are getting up to speed and are going to start trying in earnest to add energy storage to their offering?
Know the market, know your customer before offering anything, I think is really critical too. And be targeted, be strategic, right? It's no longer just a one product that you're offering, right? There's multiple layers. And so know the why, right? Know the customer, know the market.
We haven't really talked about the impact of main panel upgrade avoidance, right? And that's just like a really, really exciting space that energy storage has a big role to play in. There's going to be some exciting economics at play in certain cases where the homeowner's, going to need to upgrade their main panel anyway. But if they install an energy storage solution plus an energy management solution, they can avoid that or go with just adding a sub panel in some way that allows their home to continue to meet all their needs.
Yeah, that's an important thing. If you have to, like, as you're maybe presenting scenarios, if the customer doesn't yet have an EV, or maybe they have one, but they know they're going to get another one, or just like kind of preparing them like, hey, the future is kind of coming. We're weaning off natural gas, all electric homes. And if you're thinking of that's the path you want to be on, you should maybe make this investment now and maybe some small scale and just prepare. And like, you're going to be ready to, you're going to be ahead of the curve. So that's like a way to think about it for sure.
And it's such an exciting space for our customers, the installers, because they get to go from just trying to close this one deal, just trying to get this one contract signed, to a place where they're actively looking to be the energy management consultant that this homeowner brings into the home every time they want to electrify something else.
It feels like you're more future proofed and ready to kind of evolve your just solar installation business into exactly what you just said, kind of what's coming next.
Absolutely. And once your team is ready for it, every system that you've ever installed in your company's history is a new prospect for you to go back and say, have you been thinking about electrification? Are you thinking about an EV? Do you want me to come by and do a free look at your panel to tell you what it's capable of?
That's a great note to end on. And I just wanted to thank you, Blake and Aaron, for taking the time to tell our installers how to power forward today.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.